The scorching twin suns of Xerion Prime beat down mercilessly on the cracked desert floor as Captain Marcus Chen adjusted his environmental suit's cooling system. The landscape stretched endlessly before him, a wasteland of crystalline rock formations and shimmering heat mirages that had once been a thriving ocean world. 3 months ago, the Galactic Council had declared this planet a lost cause after the Void Plague swept through the star system, turning lush worlds into barren husks. Marcus was part of the human cleanup crew, one of the few species willing to venture into plague-affected zones. While other races fled to safety, humans had a peculiar habit of walking straight into danger zones with nothing but determination and stubborn hope. The other council species called it foolishness. Humans called it Tuesday. His boots crunched against the salt-crusted ground as he approached what his scanner identified as a massive cave system. The readings showed unusual energy signatures deep within the mountain, possibly remnants of the advanced civilization that once thrived here. His mission was simple: catalog any salvageable technology and mark the planet for complete sterilization. The cave entrance yawned before him like the mouth of some ancient beast. Marcus activated his helmet's powerful lights and stepped into the cool darkness. The temperature drop was immediate and welcome after hours under the brutal suns. His footsteps echoed through corridors that had been carved with precision that spoke of advanced engineering. As he ventured deeper, Marcus noticed something strange. The walls weren't just carved, they were decorated with intricate murals depicting creatures he'd never seen before. Massive winged beings soared across painted skies, their forms both majestic and terrifying. The artwork was incredibly detailed, showing these creatures in various activities: building cities, tending to smaller beings that looked almost humanoid, and engaging in what appeared to be complex rituals around flowing water sources. His scanner chirped softly, indicating life signs ahead. Marcus frowned and checked the readings twice. According to all reports, Xerion Prime was completely dead. The Void Plague left nothing alive in its wake, yet his instruments insisted otherwise. He moved more cautiously now, his hand instinctively moving to the plasma rifle at his side. The corridor opened into a vast chamber that took his breath away. The ceiling stretched up into darkness, supported by massive columns that seemed to grow from the rock itself. Bioluminescent crystals embedded in the walls cast an eerie blue glow across the space, revealing the chamber's most stunning feature: water. Actual flowing water cascaded down one wall in a spectacular waterfall that fed into a crystal-clear pool. In a world where every drop of moisture had supposedly been consumed by the plague, this hidden oasis seemed impossible. Movement near the pool caught his attention. Marcus raised his rifle and activated his suit's zoom function. What he saw made him question his sanity. A dragon. An actual living dragon. The creature was enormous, easily 50 feet from nose to tail, with scales that shifted between deep purple and midnight black, depending on how the crystal light struck them. Its wings were folded against its massive body, and even in its weakened state, Marcus could see the power that lay dormant in its frame. But what struck him most was the dragon's condition. The majestic creature was clearly dying. Its scales had lost their luster, its breathing was labored, and its great head hung low with exhaustion. Most shocking of all, curled beneath one of the dragon's wings were 3 smaller forms, baby dragons, no larger than house cats, their tiny bodies rising and falling with weak breaths. The adult dragon's head lifted as Marcus approached, and their eyes met across the chamber. Intelligence blazed in those ancient golden orbs, along with something Marcus recognized immediately: desperation. The dragon struggled to its feet, each movement clearly causing pain. When it spoke, its voice was like distant thunder but weakened to barely a whisper. "Please, sir, just a single sip of water." The desperate mother dragon pleaded with the human, her voice raw with thirst. Marcus stood frozen, his mind struggling to process what he was witnessing. Dragons were supposed to be myths, stories told in human folklore, yet here was living proof that the universe held wonders beyond imagination. The creature before him was clearly dying, and her young ones were in even worse condition. His scanner readings made sense now. The dragon was generating the life signs, but barely. Her biological systems were shutting down one by one. Whatever force had kept this water source pure and flowing in a dead world was failing. The dragon continued speaking, her words growing fainter. "My children, they have not drunk in days. I have given them what little I could, but she gestured weakly toward the pool. The water, it no longer sustains us as it once did. Marcus looked at the pool more carefully. His suit's analysis showed the water was indeed pure, but something was missing. Trace minerals that his scanner indicated should be present were completely absent. The water was clean but essentially dead, lacking the life-giving properties it once possessed. You are the first outsider to find us in centuries, the dragon whispered. I sense you are not of this world, perhaps. Perhaps you carry hope where we have none. The irony wasn't lost on Marcus. He was part of a sterilization crew, meant to catalog a dead world before its complete destruction. Instead, he'd found the last survivors of what might have been this planet's original inhabitants. The murals on the walls took on new meaning now. These weren't just pictures. They were historical records of the dragon civilization that had once ruled this world. Marcus made a decision that would have horrified his superiors and probably violated several Galactic Council protocols. He reached for the emergency water reserves in his suit. Each team member carried enough purified water for 3 days, along with mineral supplements designed to sustain human life in extreme conditions. Wait, he said, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber's acoustic properties. Let me see what I can do. The dragon's eyes widened, hope flickering in their golden depths like stars emerging from behind clouds. You would help us? Even though we are strangers? Even though we have nothing to offer in return? Marcus thought about that question as he began analyzing his water supplies. Humanity had always been criticized by other species for their illogical tendency to help others at their own expense. The Galactic Council saw it as a weakness, but Marcus had always believed it was humanity's greatest strength. That's what humans do, he replied simply, beginning to formulate a plan that might just save the last dragons in the universe. Marcus quickly analyzed the chemical composition of both the pool water and his suit's reserves. His advanced environmental suit was equipped with a portable laboratory capable of breaking down and reconstituting various compounds. It was designed for emergency situations where humans might need to create breathable atmosphere or drinkable water from hostile alien environments. My name is Marcus, he said as he worked, his fingers dancing across the suit's control interface. What should I call you? The dragon's massive head tilted slightly, a gesture that seemed surprisingly human-like. I am Therilith, keeper of the deep waters, last of the Xerian guardians. These are my younglings, Korath, Velthara, and little Zephys. She gestured weakly toward the 3 small forms beneath her wing. Marcus nodded respectfully. Therilith, I'm going to try something, but I need you to trust me. My species has some experience with making uninhabitable places livable again. The dragon's eyes narrowed slightly, but not with suspicion, with curiosity. Your species, human you called yourself, I have not encountered your kind in our ancient records. How long have your people traveled the void between stars? Only a few centuries, Marcus replied, continuing his work. We're relatively new to the galactic community. Most other species think we're crazy for going places where we probably shouldn't. A sound that might have been laughter rumbled from Therilith's chest. Then perhaps we have more in common than either of us expected. Marcus's suit beeped softly as it completed its analysis. The results were both encouraging and troubling. The pool water was indeed pure H2O, but the void plague had somehow stripped away every trace element and mineral that made it suitable for dragon physiology. However, his emergency supplements contained several compounds that might help. Therilith, I need to ask you something important. Before the plague, what made this water special? My instruments show it's missing something vital. The dragon's eyes grew distant as if remembering better times. The deep waters were blessed by the heart of Xerion, a crystal formation deep within our world's core. It infused our sacred pools with the essence of life itself. But when the plague came, she shuddered. The heart went dark. The blessing faded. We have been dying slowly ever since. Marcus processed this information while his suit continued working. The blessing Therilith described sounded remarkably similar to a mineral enrichment process. If the planet's core contained unique crystal formations, they might have been naturally filtering and enriching the water table. The void plague, whatever its true nature, had apparently disrupted this geological process. How long since the heart went dark? He asked. By your reckoning? Perhaps 4 of your months. We felt it happen like a physical blow. Every dragon on Xerion cried out in anguish as our life source failed. 4 months. That matched the timeline of the void plague's arrival perfectly. Marcus was beginning to suspect that the plague wasn't entirely natural. It seemed too specifically targeted at disrupting life-supporting systems. His suit chimed completion. The portable lab had created a mineral solution that matched several compounds his scanner had detected in the ancient mineral deposits around the chamber. It wasn't perfect, but it might be enough to help. Theolith, I'm going to add something to your water. It should help, but I've never tried this with dragon physiology before. The great dragon nodded slowly. If it fails, we would have died anyway. If it succeeds, perhaps my children will live to see another sunrise. The risk is acceptable. Marcus approached the pool carefully, aware that even in her weakened state, Theolith could probably kill him without effort if she chose to. Dragons, even mythical ones, were apex predators. But as he knelt by the water's edge and began introducing his mineral solution, Theolith merely watched with patient hope. The solution dispersed through the pool like liquid light, creating swirling patterns of blue and silver. Marcus's scanner showed the mineral content rising to levels that should theoretically support dragon life, though he had no idea what normal levels should be for a species that wasn't supposed to exist. Try it now, he said, stepping back. Theolith lowered her great head to the pool and drank deeply. For a moment nothing happened. Then Marcus saw it, the faintest brightening of her scales like distant stars beginning to shine through dissipating clouds. It works, she whispered, wonder in her voice. I can feel the life returning to the water. How did you know? Marcus smiled beneath his helmet. Lucky guess and some basic chemistry. My species has had to learn how to make hostile environments livable. We're stubborn that way. Theolith called softly to her children in a language that sounded like wind through crystal chimes. The three young dragons stirred, lifting their heads with obvious effort. Marcus's heart clenched as he saw how weak they were. Their scales were dull and brittle, their eyes barely open. Bring them to drink, Marcus said, but slowly. Too much too fast might be dangerous. Theolith gently nudged her children toward the pool. The smallest one, Zephys, could barely walk. Marcus watched anxiously as they reached the water's edge and began to drink. The transformation wasn't immediate, but it was noticeable. Color began returning to their scales and their breathing became less labored. You have given us life, Theolith said, her voice growing stronger with each passing moment. By the ancient codes of my people, I am now bound to you in honor debt. Marcus waved dismissively. No debt necessary. I'm just glad it worked. But Theolith's expression grew serious. You do not understand, human Marcus. An honor debt to a dragon is not a casual thing. It binds not just me, but my lineage for generations. We are now sworn to your service and protection. This was getting complicated. Marcus had just wanted to help dying creatures, not acquire mythological bodyguards. Theolith, I appreciate the gesture, but I'm part of a larger organization. My mission here is temporary. What is your mission? She asked, genuine curiosity in her voice. Marcus hesitated. How did you tell the last survivors of a species that you were part of the team, meant to sterilize their world? It's complicated. Theolith's ancient eyes studied him carefully. You are here to catalog our world before its destruction, are you not? Marcus's surprise must have shown even through his environmental suit. How did you know? I have lived for over 3,000 years, Marcus of the humans. I have seen civilizations rise and fall, and I understand the way of galactic politics. A dead world, marked by plague, would be scheduled for sterilization to prevent spread. You are part of the advance team. The dragon's matter-of-fact tone made the situation even more surreal. Theolith, I'm sorry. If I could change it. But perhaps you can, she interrupted, her voice taking on new strength as the mineral-enriched water continued to restore her. Tell me, Marcus, do you believe the void plague was entirely natural? The question hit Marcus like a thunderbolt. He'd been having similar suspicions, but hearing them voiced by someone who'd lived through the plague's arrival gave them new weight. What do you know? He asked quietly. Theolith's eyes blazed with ancient fury. I know that the plague didn't just kill life, Marcus. It specifically targeted the unique properties that made worlds habitable for their native species. Here on Xerion, it destroyed our heart. On the aquatic world of Neridon, it poisoned their thermal vents. On the gas giant Zephyria, it disrupted their atmospheric processors. Marcus felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cave's temperature. You're saying someone weaponized the plague? I'm saying, Theolith replied grimly, that someone wanted these worlds empty for a reason, and your people might be the key to stopping them. Marcus quickly analyzed the chemical composition of both the pool water and his suit's reserves. His advanced environmental suit was equipped with a portable laboratory capable of breaking down and reconstituting various compounds. It was designed for emergency situations where humans might need to create breathable atmosphere or drinkable water from hostile alien environments. "My name is Marcus," he said as he worked, his fingers dancing across the suit's control interface. "What should I call you?" The dragon's massive head tilted slightly, a gesture that seemed surprisingly human-like. "I am Thiroleth, keeper of the deep waters, last of the Zerion guardians. These are my younglings, Korath, Velthara, and little Zephys." She gestured weakly toward the three small forms beneath her wing. Marcus nodded respectfully. "Thiroleth, I'm going to try something, but I need you to trust me. My species has some experience with making uninhabitable places livable again." The dragon's eyes narrowed slightly, but not with suspicion. With curiosity. "Your species? Human, you called yourself? I have not encountered your kind in our ancient records. How long have your people traveled the void between stars?" "Only a few centuries," Marcus replied, continuing his work. "We're relatively new to the galactic community. Most other species think we're crazy for going places where we probably shouldn't." A sound that might have been laughter rumbled from Thiroleth's chest. "Then perhaps we have more in common than either of us expected." Marcus's suit beeped softly as it completed its analysis. The results were both encouraging and troubling. The pool water was indeed pure H2O, but the void plague had somehow stripped away every trace element and mineral that made it suitable for dragon physiology. However, his emergency supplements contained several compounds that might help. "Thiroleth, I need to ask you something important. Before the plague, what made this water special? My instruments show it's missing something vital." The dragon's eyes grew distant as if remembering better times. "The deep waters were blessed by the heart of Zerion, a crystal formation deep within our world's core. It infused our sacred pools with the essence of life itself. But when the plague came," she shuddered. "The heart went dark. The blessing faded. We have been dying slowly ever since." Marcus processed this information while his suit continued working. The blessing Thiroleth described sounded remarkably similar to a mineral enrichment process. If the planet's core contained unique crystal formations, they might have been naturally filtering and enriching the water table. The void plague, whatever its true nature, had apparently disrupted this geological process. "How long since the heart went dark?" he asked. "By your reckoning?" "Perhaps 4 of your months. We felt it happen like a physical blow. Every dragon on Zerion cried out in anguish as our life source failed. 4 months. That matched the timeline of the void plague's arrival perfectly." Marcus was beginning to suspect that the plague wasn't entirely natural. It seemed too specifically targeted at disrupting life-supporting systems. His suit chimed completion. The portable lab had created a mineral solution that matched several compounds his scanner had detected in the ancient mineral deposits around the chamber. It wasn't perfect, but it might be enough to help. "Thiroleth, I'm going to add something to your water. It should help, but I've never tried this with dragon physiology before." The great dragon nodded slowly. "If it fails, we would have died anyway. If it succeeds, perhaps my children will live to see another sunrise. The risk is acceptable." Marcus approached the pool carefully, aware that even in her weakened state, Thiroleth could probably kill him without effort if she chose to. Dragons, even mythical ones, were apex predators. But as he knelt by the water's edge and began introducing his mineral solution, Thiroleth merely watched with patient hope. The solution dispersed through the pool like liquid light, creating swirling patterns of blue and silver. Marcus's scanner showed the mineral content rising to levels that should theoretically support dragon life, though he had no idea what normal levels should be for a species that wasn't supposed to exist. "Try it now," he said, stepping back. Thiroleth lowered her great head to the pool and drank deeply. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Marcus saw it, the faintest brightening of her scales like distant stars beginning to shine through dissipating clouds. "It works," she whispered, wonder in her voice. "I can feel the life returning to the water." "How did you know?" Marcus smiled beneath his helmet. "Lucky guess and some basic chemistry. My species has had to learn how to make hostile environments livable. We're stubborn that way," Thiroleth called softly to her children in a language that sounded like wind through crystal chimes. The 3 young dragons stirred, lifting their heads with obvious effort. Marcus's heart clenched as he saw how weak they were. Their scales were dull and brittle, their eyes barely open. "Bring them to drink," Marcus said. "But slowly. Too much too fast might be dangerous." Thyrolith gently nudged her children toward the pool. The smallest one, Zephys, could barely walk. Marcus watched anxiously as they reached the water's edge and began to drink. The transformation wasn't immediate, but it was noticeable. Color began returning to their scales and their breathing became less labored. "You have given us life," Thyrolith said, her voice growing stronger with each passing moment. "By the ancient codes of my people, I am now bound to you in honor debt." Marcus waved dismissively. "No debt necessary. I'm just glad it worked." But Thyrolith's expression grew serious. "You do not understand, human Marcus. An honor debt to a dragon is not a casual thing. It binds not just me, but my lineage for generations. We are now sworn to your service and protection." This was getting complicated. Marcus had just wanted to help dying creatures, not acquire mythological bodyguards. "Thyrolith, I appreciate the gesture, but I'm part of a larger organization. My mission here is temporary." "What is your mission?" she asked, genuine curiosity in her voice. Marcus hesitated. "How did you tell the last survivors of a species that you were part of the team, meant to sterilize their world?" "It's complicated." Thyrolith's ancient eyes studied him carefully. "You are here to catalog." Marcus's mind raced as he processed Thyrolith's implications. If the Void Plague was artificial, then someone was conducting systematic genocide on a galactic scale. The sterilization protocols he was part of weren't preventing plague spread. They were completing the job. "Thyrolith, you said the plague specifically targeted what made worlds habitable. How could you know what happened on other planets?" The dragon's expression grew somber. "Before the plague struck, we dragons maintained a communication network across several star systems. We're guardians of unique worlds, protectors of rare ecosystems. And the plague began. We shared information until, one by one, the voices went silent." Marcus activated his suit's recording systems. This information could be crucial. "What kind of communication network?" "Your people might call it quantum entanglement, though it was powered by living crystal formations similar to our Heart of Zerion. Each world in our network had guardians who could speak across the void instantaneously. This was incredible. Dragons weren't just mythological creatures. They were part of an interspecies conservation network that had existed for millennia." "How many worlds were in your network?" 47 worlds, each unique, each irreplaceable." Thyrolith's voice carried the weight of unbearable loss. "Now only I remain to tell their stories." Marcus looked at the three young dragons now drinking more steadily from the restored pool. Their scales were definitely brighter, their movements less labored. "If you were guardians, what exactly were you guarding against?" Thyrolith was quiet for a long moment, as if debating how much to reveal. "There are forces in this galaxy that see diversity as inefficiency, Marcus. Species that believe all worlds should be standardized for maximum resource extraction. We called them the Harmonizers." The name sent a chill down Marcus's spine. The Galactic Council had briefed him on various extremist groups, but he'd never heard of Harmonizers specifically. "Tell me more about them." "They appeared in our network's records about 500 years ago. At first, they seemed benevolent, offering technological assistance to struggling civilizations, helping to terraform barren worlds. But we began to notice a pattern. Every world they helped became identical. Same atmosphere composition, same mineral distribution, same basic ecosystem." Marcus was beginning to see the horrifying picture. They were standardizing worlds, exactly. And when native species refused their help or proved incompatible with their standard models, Thyrolith's eyes flashed with anger. Those species would mysteriously develop incurable plagues or suffer catastrophic ecosystem failures. The pieces were falling into place. "The Void Plague isn't random. It's a terraforming tool. A weapon disguised as a natural disaster," Thyrolith confirmed. "It eliminates existing life and prepares worlds for Harmonizer standard templates. Your Galactic Council's sterilization protocols ensure no evidence remains." Marcus felt sick. Humanity had unknowingly become part of a genocide operation. "We have to stop this. We have to warn the Council." Thyrolith's laugh was bitter. "Do you think the Council doesn't know? Several member species have been reporting suspicious plague patterns for decades. The reports disappear into bureaucratic black holes. Then, Marcus emerged from the cave system to find his team preparing for immediate evacuation. The sight of 8 humans in bright orange environmental suits scrambling around their base camp was oddly comforting after his surreal encounter underground. "Chen," called out Dr. Sarah Martinez, the team's xenobiologist. "Where the hell have you been? We thought you'd fallen into a crevasse." Marcus's mind raced as he approached. "How do you tell your colleagues that you've discovered living dragons and uncovered evidence of galactic genocide? I found something incredible down there. Something that changes everything." Team leader Jackson Kim looked up from packing equipment. "Save it for the debriefing, Chen. We're wheels up in 2 hours. Council orders. Kim, I need 5 minutes. Just 5 minutes to show you all something that will blow your minds." The team stopped what they were doing. Marcus had a reputation for being level-headed and practical. If he was excited about something, it was worth paying attention to. "Talk fast," Kim said. Marcus took a deep breath. "I found survivors." The silence that followed was deafening. Dr. Martinez was the first to speak. "That's impossible. The void plague leaves nothing alive. I know what the reports say. I also know what I saw." Marcus activated his suit's data recorder and projected the holographic readings onto the group's shared display. Energy signatures, atmospheric readings, and biological scans all confirm living beings in the cave system. Engineer Tom Walsh whistled low. "Those are some seriously impressive life signs. What kind of creatures are we talking about?" This was the moment of truth. Marcus made a decision that would either save Theralith and her children, or get him court-martialed. Large reptilian species. Highly intelligent. They've been surviving in a protected environment using advanced biotechnology. It wasn't exactly a lie. Dragons were reptilian, they were intelligent, and their crystal-powered water system was definitely advanced biotechnology. Intelligent reptiles. Dr. Martinez's scientific curiosity was clearly piqued. On a plague-infected world? How is that possible? They seem to have natural resistance to the plague. Marcus continued building on the partial truth. Their survival mechanism might be the key to developing plague countermeasures. Kim's expression shifted from annoyance to interest. The potential for plague resistance research was exactly the kind of discovery that could advance a career. "How many survivors?" 4 individuals. 1 adult, 3 juveniles. But Kim, there's something else. They've been monitoring the plague across multiple star systems. They have data. "What kind of data?" asked Lieutenant Rosa Patel, the team's security specialist. Marcus took another calculated risk. "They believe the plague isn't natural. They think it's an engineered bioweapon designed to prepare worlds for specific types of terraforming." The team exchanged glances. Several of them had noticed irregularities and plague patterns across different worlds, but none had voiced their suspicions officially. "That's a serious accusation," Kim said carefully. "Do you have any evidence beyond their word?" "They claim there's a data repository deep underground. Some kind of quantum storage system that might contain records of the plague's deployment." Dr. Martinez was practically vibrating with excitement. "Quantum biological storage?" "That's theoretically possible, but beyond anything we've seen in practice. If it exists, the scientific implications alone would be revolutionary." "How deep?" Walsh asked, his engineering mind already working on the technical challenges. 3 kilometers. The survivors say it's in a crystal formation near the planet's mantle. Kim looked thoughtful. "The thermal equipment could handle that depth, but it would take at least 12 hours to reach it safely." "We only have 18 hours before orbital bombardment," Marcus reminded them. "If this information exists and we don't retrieve it, entire civilizations might continue to die from engineered plagues." The weight of that possibility settled over the group. These were people who had dedicated their careers to protecting and preserving life in the galaxy. The thought that they might be unknowingly participating in its destruction was horrifying. "All right," Kim decided. "We postpone evacuation and investigate. But Chen, if this turns out to be some kind of elaborate hoax, I'm personally throwing you out the airlock." Marcus felt a surge of relief and terror. Now came the really difficult part. "There's one more thing. The survivors want to meet with us." "Absolutely not," Patel said immediately. "Unknown alien species, possible plague carriers, confined underground space. That's about 6 different kinds of security violation." "They're not plague carriers," Marcus insisted. "My suit's medical scanners would have detected any pathogens." "How can you be sure they're friendly?" Martinez asked. "Large reptilian species could be dangerous." Marcus thought about Theralith's desperate plea for water, her concern for her children, her willingness to trust a complete stranger. Because they asked for help instead of demanding it. Because they're dying and could have taken my water by force, but they asked politely instead. The team digested this information. Walsh spoke up first. If they have quantum storage technology, they might have other innovations that could help with the excavation. And if they've been monitoring plague patterns, they might have information that could save lives, Martinez added. Kim made the decision. We meet them. Full environmental protection, weapons ready but not aggressive posture. If they seem hostile, we withdraw immediately and proceed with evacuation. 20 minutes later, 9 humans descended into the cave system. Marcus led the way, his heart pounding as they approached the great chamber. How would his colleagues react to seeing actual dragons? How would Therolith react to armed humans? Holy mother of... Martinez's voice trailed off as they entered the chamber and saw the impossible sight before them. Therolith rose to her full, magnificent height, her scales now gleaming with restored health. The mineral-enriched water had worked better than Marcus had dared hope. She looked every inch the mythical creature of human legend. But her posture was non-threatening. Even welcoming. Greetings, children of Earth, she said, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber. I am Therolith, and I welcome you to the last sanctuary of Xerion Prime. The team stood frozen in shock. Walsh was the first to recover. Did that dragon just speak perfect galactic standard? Dragons are excellent linguists, Therolith replied with what might have been amusement. We have had many centuries to study the languages of spacefaring species. Patel's hand had moved instinctively toward her weapon, but Kim gestured for her to stand down. You're actually a dragon. I am indeed, though I prefer to think of myself as a librarian and protector of knowledge. Therolith gestured toward the pool where her 3 children were now playing, their movements much more energetic than before. Thanks to your friend Marcus, my children and I will live to see tomorrow. Perhaps longer, if you are willing to help us prevent a greater tragedy. Martinez stepped forward, her scientific training overriding her shock. You said you have data about the plague. Actual scientific data? Extensive data. Quantum matrices containing information about plague deployment patterns, chemical signatures, and biological effects across 47 different worlds. Information that proves the plague is artificial and identifies its creators. The harmonizers, Marcus added, watching his team's reactions carefully. Kim's expression had shifted to grim understanding. You think someone's been engineering plagues to clear worlds for terraforming? I don't think it, Therolith said firmly. I know it. The question is whether you are willing to risk everything to help us prove it. The chamber fell silent except for the sound of falling water and the soft chittering of young dragons at play. Marcus watched his colleagues process the impossible situation they found themselves in. Finally, Martinez spoke. If what you're telling us is true, then we're not just cleanup crew. We're accomplices to genocide. Unknowing accomplices, Kim said, but accomplices nonetheless. Walsh had been examining the chamber's crystal formations with his scanner. Boss, these readings are off the charts. This isn't just advanced technology. This is completely revolutionary. If we can understand how it works, we could change the galaxy, Martinez finished. Plague resistance, quantum storage, sustainable ecosystem management. The applications are endless, Patel remained skeptical. Even if all of this is true, what can we do? 9 humans and 4 dragons against an interstellar conspiracy? It sounds like a suicide mission. Therolith's golden eyes focused on the security specialist. You are thinking like prey instead of predators. Yes, our enemies are powerful, but they have made one critical mistake. What's that? Kim asked. They underestimated humans, Therolith said with a fierce smile that revealed impressive teeth. Marcus has shown me that your species has a remarkable talent for achieving the impossible when motivated by justice. Marcus felt a surge of pride and determination. So what's our first step? We reach the heart of Xerion and retrieve the data, Therolith declared. Then we show the galaxy what the harmonizers have been doing to their worlds. Kim looked around at his team, seeing the same determination in their faces that he felt in his own heart. All right, people. Looks like we're about to become rebels. Anyone who wants to back out, now's your chance. No one moved. Good, Kim said grimly. Let's go save the galaxy. The next 6 hours transformed the ancient dragon sanctuary into a hub of frantic activity. Human engineering efficiency met dragon wisdom as 2 species worked together toward a common goal. Walsh and his team had brought their thermal excavation equipment into the chamber, while Thyrolith provided detailed geological surveys based on her 3,000-year knowledge of Xerion Prime. The path to the heart runs along these crystal veins, Thyrolith explained, her clawed finger tracing routes on the holographic display. Your equipment can follow the natural fissures rather than cutting new passages. It will be faster and safer. Martinez was taking biological samples of everything in sight, her excitement barely contained. Thyrolith, these crystal formations aren't just storing quantum data, they're alive. The entire cave system is a living organism. Of course, the dragon replied. How else would it maintain itself for millennia? Xerion's underground network is actually a planet-wide neural system. The heart is essentially the brain. This revelation stopped the team cold. You're saying the entire planet is sentient? Kim asked. Was sentient, Thyrolith corrected sadly. The Void Plague didn't just kill surface life. It severed the connections between the heart and the planetary nervous system. Xerion is dying from the inside out. Walsh looked up from his equipment calibrations. If the planet is alive, then the thermal drilling could cause it pain. Thyrolith's expression softened. Your concern honors you, Thomas Walsh. But Xerion welcomed your presence the moment you helped heal these waters. The planet knows you are trying to save it. As if in response to her words, the crystal formations around the chamber began to pulse with a gentle rhythm, like a slow heartbeat. The bioluminescent glow brightened, clearly illuminating the path their excavation should follow. Well, that's convenient, Patel muttered, checking her weapons for the third time. Someone had to maintain security protocols, even if they were about to descend into a living planet with mythological creatures. Marcus was working with Thyrolith to understand the heart's data storage system. You said the information is stored in quantum matrices. How do we access it without destroying it? Dragons are naturally attuned to quantum fields, Thyrolith explained. I can interface directly with the heart's consciousness and extract the data. However, the process requires a living conduit. What kind of conduit? Marcus asked, though he was beginning to suspect he already knew the answer. A bond between dragon and another sentient species. The quantum matrices respond to paired consciousness. One to stabilize the field, one to navigate the data streams. Kim overheard the conversation. Are you saying one of us has to link minds with a dragon? Temporarily, yes. The process is harmless, but it requires absolute trust between participants. The team exchanged glances. They were already taking enormous risks. But psychic bonding with a 3,000-year-old dragon was on another level entirely. I'll do it, Marcus said without hesitation. Absolutely not, Patel objected. We don't know the long-term effects of whatever this process involves. Marcus has already demonstrated compatibility with our methods, Thyrolith pointed out. He understood our water needs instinctively and trusted us with minimal evidence. The quantum bond requires similar intuitive cooperation. Martinez looked up from her sample analysis. Actually, that makes sense. Some humans show natural aptitude for quantum field manipulation. It's rare but documented. How rare? Kim asked. Maybe 1 in 10,000. All eyes turned to Marcus. Guess I'm lucky, he said with more confidence than he felt. The excavation began in earnest. Human thermal cutters carved through solid rock while dragon-guided crystal formations provided structural support and navigation. The 3 young dragons, now fully recovered, proved surprisingly helpful. Their smaller size allowed them to scout ahead through narrow passages, and their natural quantum sensitivity helped them detect the safest routes. Korath reports the main passage is clear for another 50 meters. Thyrolith translated as the young dragon chittered excitedly. Velthera has found a gas pocket that needs venting, and little Zephys. She paused, listening to the smallest dragon's rapid communication. Zephys has found evidence of harmonizer technology. That brought the excavation to a halt. What kind of evidence? Patel demanded. Zephys led them to a section of tunnel wall where the natural crystal formations had been replaced by obviously artificial structures. Sleek metal conduits ran through the rock, pulsing with a sickly yellow light. Quantum inhibitors, Thyrolith identified grimly, designed to disrupt the planet's neural network. The harmonizers didn't just deploy the plague, they surgically implanted devices to prevent Xerion from healing itself. Walsh scanned the alien technology with his equipment. It's definitely active. Sophisticated stuff, but I think I can disable it. Be careful, Thyrolith warned. Harmonizer technology often includes defensive measures. Walsh approached the conduits cautiously, his tools ready. As he began to work, the yellow light pulsed more rapidly, as if sensing the threat. Then, without warning, the entire tunnel system shook with a deep rumble. What was that? Martinez gasped. Thyrileth's eyes had gone wide with alarm. The inhibitors are networked. When one is tampered with, the others activate defensive protocols. The rumbling intensified and chunks of rock began falling from the ceiling. But instead of natural collapse, the debris was being directed by the alien conduits. They were weaponizing the tunnel itself. Everyone back to the main chamber, Kim shouted. Move! The team retreated as the tunnel behind them collapsed in a controlled sequence designed to trap intruders. But as they reached the safety of the Dragon Sanctuary, they found Thyrileth glowing with inner fire, her scales blazing like armor. Enough, she declared, her voice carrying power that made the chamber walls vibrate. This ends now. The dragon spread her wings and released a roar that was felt more than heard. The sound carried pure quantum energy, disrupting the Harmonizer technology's frequency. Throughout the tunnel system, the yellow lights flickered and died as the inhibitors overloaded. How did you do that? Martinez asked in amazement. Dragons are quantum beings, Thyrileth explained, though she looked drained by the effort. We exist partially in quantum space. The Harmonizer's technology assumes purely physical opposition. Walsh was already back at work, his excitement overriding his caution. With the inhibitors down, I'm reading massive quantum activity from below. The heart is trying to re-establish connection with the planetary network. Then we need to reach it quickly, Thyrileth said.
The Harmonizers will detect the disruption soon.
They'll send ships to investigate. The final descent to the heart of Zerion was like traveling through the arteries of a living giant. The tunnel walls pulsed with restored life, and the air itself seemed to hum with potential. As they went deeper, the temperature rose steadily, but the crystal formations provided natural cooling that kept the environment manageable. When they finally reached the heart chamber, even the humans' enhanced vocabulary failed them. The space was vast beyond comprehension, filled with a crystal formation that seemed to stretch into infinity. The heart itself was beautiful beyond description, a living jewel the size of a city block that pulsed with every color in the spectrum and several that had no names. By all the gods of space, Kim whispered. It's incredible. It's dying, Thyrileth corrected sadly, but perhaps not beyond hope. As they watched, the heart's light pulsed weakly like a failing star. But there was intelligence in that light, awareness that recognized their presence. It knows we're here, Marcus realized. Zerion has been waiting, Thyrileth confirmed, waiting for someone who could help it fight back against the poison in its veins. Marcus stepped forward, feeling the quantum fields tugging at his consciousness. What do I need to do? Thyrileth moved beside him, her massive presence both comforting and awe-inspiring. Trust me, Marcus Chen. Trust your planet and trust yourself. She placed one clawed hand gently on his shoulder, and Marcus felt his consciousness expand beyond anything he had ever imagined. Suddenly, he could feel the entire planet, its pain, its dying hope, and its desperate desire to live. But more than that, he could feel the data. Centuries of information about the Harmonizer's activities flowed through his awareness like a river of light. Plague deployment schedules, terraforming templates, the locations of hidden bases, and most importantly, the identity of species within the Galactic Council, who were secretly supporting the Harmonizer agenda. The revelation was staggering. The genocide wasn't being conducted by external forces, it was an inside job, carried out by council members who wanted to standardize the galaxy for easier control. When the connection ended, Marcus collapsed to his knees, his mind reeling from the download of information. But he was smiling. Did you get it? Kim asked anxiously. Marcus looked up at his team, then at Thyrileth, then at the heart of Zerion still pulsing with restored hope. I got everything, he said. And now we're going to save the galaxy. The journey back to the surface was entirely different from their descent. Where before they had been racing against time to reach the heart, now they carried the weight of galactic conspiracy on their shoulders. Marcus's mind still reeled from the quantum download, processing terabytes of damning evidence against some of the most powerful species in the Galactic Council. Talk to me, Chen, Kim said as they climbed through the restored tunnel system. What exactly did you see down there? Marcus organized his thoughts carefully. The Harmonizers aren't an external threat. They're a faction within the Council itself. Species that want to convert every world in the galaxy to their standard template for easier resource extraction and control. How many species are involved? Patel asked, her security training making her think tactically. 12 of the 47 council members are active conspirators. Another 8 are passive supporters who benefit from the standardization without directly participating. Martinez looked horrified. That's nearly half the council. How long has this been going on? According to the data, about 300 years. They started small, targeting uninhabited worlds for improvement. When that proved successful, they moved on to worlds with primitive life. The Void Plague was their breakthrough innovation, a way to clear worlds without obvious warfare. Walsh was scanning the tunnel walls as they climbed. The crystal network is definitely coming back online. I'm reading quantum activity levels that are off the charts. Therolith, who had been unusually quiet during the ascent, finally spoke. Zerion is healing, but slowly. It will take time for the planetary consciousness to fully recover from centuries of systematic poisoning. Do we have time? Kim asked. The orbital bombardment is scheduled to begin in less than 8 hours. The bombardment will not proceed as planned, Therolith said with quiet confidence. I have taken the liberty of sending a message. The team stopped climbing. What kind of message? Marcus asked. I contacted the remaining dragon enclaves in distant star systems, those few who survived the plague by hiding in deep space or remote dimensional pockets. They are coming. Patel's hand moved toward her weapon again. How many are coming? Not many. Perhaps 50 adults, but dragons in space are considerably more impressive than dragons on the ground. As they emerged from the cave system into the harsh sunlight of Zerion Prime, Marcus immediately noticed something different. The sky, which had been empty except for the twin suns, now showed distant glints of reflected light. Ships were arriving in the outer system. Those aren't council vessels, Kim observed, studying the readings on his portable scanner. No, Therolith agreed. Those are dragon ships. Martinez looked skeptical. Dragons have spaceships? We are a very old species, Dr. Martinez. We learned to travel between stars before most of your current council members had developed fire. The distant ships grew larger as they watched, resolving into sleek, organic-looking vessels that seemed to move like living creatures rather than mechanical constructs. They were beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Marcus's communicator crackled with an incoming transmission. Cleanup crew, this is Council Battle Fleet Zerion. Respond immediately. Kim took the call. This is Team Leader Kim. We're experiencing some technical difficulties with our equipment. Acknowledged. Be advised. We have detected unauthorized vessels entering the system. Maintain your position and prepare for immediate evacuation. Orbital bombardment will commence as soon as we've dealt with these intruders. Copy that, Command. Standing by. Kim closed the channel and looked at his team. Well, that's it. We're officially in rebellion against the Galactic Council. Good, said Martinez firmly. After what we've learned, I wouldn't want to be on their side anyway. The dragon ships were moving into formation around Zerion Prime, taking defensive positions that clearly announced their intentions. This was no longer a sterilization mission, it was a battle for the truth. Therolith, Marcus said urgently. We need to broadcast this information before the shooting starts. If the other council species know what's really happening, maybe we can stop this without a war. I agree. But the harmonizers control most communication networks. How do we reach the honest council members? Walsh had been working on his portable equipment. I might have an idea. If these crystal formations can store and transmit quantum data, maybe we can use them as a communication array. The planetary network, Martinez realized. If Zerion is connected to other worlds through quantum entanglement, we could broadcast through the entire crystal network. Therolith's eyes blazed with sudden hope. Yes, there are still 17 worlds with intact crystal networks. If we can reach them simultaneously, the message will spread through their populations faster than the harmonizers can suppress it. How long do we need? Kim asked. 30 minutes to establish the quantum links, another 10 minutes to transmit the complete data package, Walsh estimated. Marcus looked at the growing space battle above them. The dragon ships were impressive, but they were vastly outnumbered by council forces. We might not have 30 minutes. Then we make 30 minutes, Therolith declared. My people have been waiting 3 centuries for this moment. We will not let the harmonizers silence the truth again. The dragon spread her massive wings and released another of those quantum-powered roars. This time the effect was different. Instead of disrupting technology, the sound carried a message that resonated across dimensional space. Above them, the dragon ships responded with their own calls, creating a harmony that was felt across the star system. "What was that?" Marcus asked. "A battle song," Theraleth explained. "Dragons have always fought best when we fight together." The space battle began in earnest as Council forces moved to engage the dragon fleet. The dragon ships moved like nothing Marcus had ever seen, flowing through space with organic grace while unleashing devastating quantum-based weapons. But there were simply too many Council ships. "They're buying us time," Kim realized. "The dragons are sacrificing themselves for this transmission." "Not sacrificing," Theraleth corrected. "Investing. Every moment they give us is a chance for justice to prevail." Walsh's equipment hummed to life as he established connection with the planetary crystal network. "I've got quantum links forming with 7, 10, 14 worlds. The network is bigger than we thought." "Because it's older than we thought," Theraleth explained. "This network predates the current Galactic Council by millennia. It was built by the first dragons as a way to preserve knowledge and protect biodiversity. Martinez was helping Walsh calibrate the transmission array. The data compression is incredible. We're about to broadcast the complete evidence package to dozens of worlds simultaneously." Above them, a dragon ship exploded in brilliant quantum fire as Council weapons finally found their mark. Then another. The brave creatures were dying to protect a single moment of truth. "Transmission beginning now," Walsh announced. The crystal formations throughout the chamber began to glow with intense light as petabytes of information flowed through quantum space to distant worlds. Evidence of conspiracy, proof of genocide, records of deliberate species extinction, all of it racing toward populations who had been kept in ignorance for centuries. "How will we know if it worked?" Patel asked. "We'll know," Marcus said confidently. "Because humans aren't the only species that gets angry when they learn they've been lied to." As if summoned by his words, new energy signatures appeared at the edge of the star system. Ships bearing the emblems of dozen different species, honest, Council members who had received the transmission and were racing to Zerion Prime to see the truth for themselves. "Transmission complete," Walsh reported. "The evidence is out there." Above them, the space battle was taking a dramatic turn. The arriving fleets weren't taking sides, they were demanding answers. Council communication channels crackled with confused demands for explanation, as species after species confirmed the data they had received. Theraleth was glowing with pride and exhaustion. "It is done. The galaxy knows what the harmonizers have been doing." Marcus watched the growing chaos in orbit with satisfaction. "What happens now?" "Now," Theraleth said with a fierce smile, "the real work begins. Exposing the conspiracy was only the first step. Now we have to rebuild what they destroyed." Kim was monitoring the communication channels, listening to the confused and angry voices of dozens of species. "Sounds like the harmonizers are about to have a very bad day." "Good," said Martinez. "After what they did to Zerion and all the other worlds, they deserve everything they're about to get." Marcus looked around at his team, 8 humans who had started this day as simple cleanup crew and were ending it as galactic revolutionaries. Then he looked at Theraleth and her children, the last dragons of a murdered world who had trusted strangers with the truth. "So what's our next mission?" he asked. Theraleth's golden eyes blazed with ancient wisdom and new hope. "We heal the galaxy, Marcus Chen, one world at a time." In orbit above them, the first harmonizer ships were surrendering as their conspiracy crumbled around them. The age of standardization was ending. The age of diversity was about to begin. 6 months after the Battle of Zerion Prime, Marcus Chen stood on the observation deck of the newly commissioned research vessel Theraleth's Hope, watching as the planet below bloomed with life. Where once there had been endless desert and crystalline waste, now vast forests of quantum-sensitive trees spread across the continents. Rivers flowed again, carrying mineral-rich water that sang with the planet's restored heartbeat. "The atmospheric processors are working beyond all projections," Dr. Martinez reported, her excitement evident even through the clinical language. "Oxygen levels are up 30%, and the biodiversity index is climbing daily." Marcus smiled as he watched a pod of newly introduced aerial whales drift through the upper atmosphere, their crystalline bellies glowing with stored quantum energy. Thyrolith was right. Zerion wanted to live again. The bridge around him buzzed with activity as humans and dragons worked side by side. The galactic response to the Harmonizer conspiracy had been swift and decisive. Within days of the evidence broadcast, emergency council sessions had resulted in the arrest of the conspirators and the immediate formation of the Restoration Alliance, a new organization dedicated to healing the damaged worlds. Humanity, with their talent for making the impossible seem reasonable, had been chosen to lead the restoration efforts. Dragons, with their ancient wisdom and quantum abilities, had become the Alliance's senior advisors. It was a partnership that neither species had expected, but which seemed to work remarkably well. Marcus, Thyrolith's voice carried through the ship's quantum communication system. She was currently on the planet's surface working with the newly awakened heart of Zerion to coordinate the restoration of the global ecosystem. We have a situation that requires your attention. Marcus made his way to the transport bay where a shuttle was waiting to take him planetside. The 6-month transformation of Zerion had been miraculous, but it hadn't been without challenges. Healing a world that had been systematically poisoned for 3 centuries was complicated work. The shuttle descended through atmosphere that now held actual clouds instead of toxic vapor. Marcus never tired of seeing the planet as it was meant to be, alive, vibrant, and singing with quantum harmony. The shuttle landed near the heart chamber, which had become the coordination center for restoration efforts. Inside, Marcus found Thyrolith in deep communion with the heart, her scales glowing with quantum resonance. Around her, 3 young dragons who had grown considerably in the past months were assisting with data coordination. Korath, Velthura, and Zephys were no longer the weak, dying children they had been. They were becoming the new generation of planetary guardians. "What's the situation?" Marcus asked as Thyrolith emerged from her quantum trance. "We've received a distress signal," she replied, her expression serious. "Another world in the Outer Rim has been affected by Harmonizer technology. But this time it's different." She activated the chamber's holographic display, showing a star map with a pulsing red indicator. "The world is called Nethys. The distress signal came from a human colony that's been there for about 50 years. Marcus studied the information. "I thought all Harmonizer operations had been shut down after the conspiracy was exposed. Most of them have. But some Harmonizers went underground, literally. They've established secret bases on remote worlds, continuing their work in hiding." Thyrolith's eyes flashed with anger. "They're testing new plague variants. The implications hit Marcus like a physical blow. They're trying to create diseases that can affect multiple species at once." "Exactly. The signal from Nethys indicates that both the human colonists and the native population are dying from something that targets both human and alien physiology." Marcus felt the familiar surge of determination that had driven him to help Thyrolith 6 months ago. "How many people are we talking about?" "Approximately 10,000 humans and an unknown number of native Nethesians. The local species is apparently highly reclusive." Kim's voice came over the communication system. "Chen, we've got a problem up here. 3 other ships just received similar distress signals from different worlds. It looks like the rogue Harmonizers are accelerating their operations." Marcus looked at the star map, seeing the scope of the crisis expanding. "They're creating multiple plague outbreaks simultaneously, hoping to overwhelm our response capabilities." "Precisely," Thyrolith confirmed. "But they've made one crucial mistake." "What's that?" "They assume we'll respond the same way the old council did, sending small teams to manage individual crises." Thyrolith's smile was fierce with anticipation. "They don't understand how humans think when their friends are in danger." Marcus grinned, understanding immediately. They're about to learn about human pack mentality. Over the next hour, the observation deck of Thyrolith's Hope transformed into a war room. Representatives from dozens of species gathered via quantum communication as Marcus and Thyrolith outlined their response plan. The Alliance had spent months building resources and relationships for exactly this kind of crisis. "We don't respond to these outbreaks individually," Marcus explained to the assembled representatives. "We respond to all of them simultaneously. Maximum force, coordinated action, complete restoration of every affected world." Ambassador Kesh, a crystalline being from the Outer Rim, raised a concern. "The logistics alone would be staggering. We're talking about deployment across multiple star systems. Which is why we're not doing this the traditional way," Thyrolith interjected. The Dragon Quantum Network can coordinate instantaneous communication and transport across any distance. We can deploy restoration teams to every affected world simultaneously. Dr. Martinez had been running calculations on her portable computer. We'll need specialized equipment for each world's unique environment. Some of the affected planets have completely different atmospheric compositions. Already handled, Kim reported. Human engineering teams have been developing modular restoration kits, specifically for rapid deployment. We can adapt our equipment to any environment within hours. Lieutenant Patel, now the Alliance's chief of security, added her perspective. The rogue harmonizers will fight back. They know this is their last chance to complete their agenda. Let them fight, Therolith said calmly. Dragons have been patient for 3 centuries. We're done being patient. The next phase of planning involves something that would have been impossible 6 months earlier. Dragons and humans worked together to establish quantum transport links that could move entire restoration teams across galactic distances in minutes instead of weeks. The technology combined human engineering with dragon quantum abilities in ways that neither species could have achieved alone. Team assignments are complete, Kim announced. We'll have 40 restoration teams deploying to affected worlds within the next 6 hours. Marcus looked at the deployment plan with pride. Each team consisted of humans and dragons working together, supported by representatives from other Alliance species. They weren't just responding to crises, they were demonstrating a new way of approaching galactic cooperation. Thyrolith, are you sure the quantum network can handle this much simultaneous activity? The ancient dragon's eyes blazed with confidence. Marcus, my people have been dreaming of this moment for centuries. The chance to heal instead of just preserve, to restore instead of just protect. The network will hold. As the deployment began, Marcus found himself assigned to the Nethys mission along with Korath, now grown to the size of a small aircraft. The young dragon had specifically requested to work with humans, fascinated by their approach to problem-solving. Why do humans always run toward danger instead of away from it? Korath asked as their transport ship prepared for quantum jump. Marcus considered the question seriously. I think it's because we've learned that running away doesn't make the danger disappear. It just means someone else has to face it alone. And humans don't like people being alone? Not when we can help it. Korath made a sound that might have been dragon laughter. No wonder Therolith likes your species. You're almost as stubborn as dragons. The quantum jump to Nethys took only minutes, but when they emerged from quantum space, they found themselves in the middle of a battle. Rogue harmonizer ships were bombarding the planet's surface, trying to prevent any rescue attempts. Looks like they've decided to go with the direct approach, Marcus observed as energy blasts lit up the space around their ship. Good, Korath replied, his young voice filled with ancient dragon rage. I was hoping for a fight. The battle for Nethys was brief but decisive. Human tactical coordination combined with dragon quantum abilities made the Alliance forces nearly unstoppable. More importantly, the other 39 simultaneous operations were equally successful. The rogue harmonizers found themselves fighting on 40 fronts at once, their resources scattered and their coordination broken. Within 12 hours, every plague outbreak had been contained. Every affected world was receiving restoration assistance, and the last of the harmonizer conspiracy had been eliminated. Standing on the surface of Nethys 3 days later, watching human colonists and native Nethesians working together to rebuild their shared world, Marcus reflected on how much had changed since that day when he first heard a desperate dragon ask for water. We did it, he said to Korath, who was helping to establish